How's Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Because obviously he was fatigued ahead of the United game, and also just wondered how far away Andros Townsend is at the minute, and any other injury problems ahead of this one.
Yeah, Dominic's had a good week. We played 3 games in 6 days going into Manchester United, so we had to be careful with that one. So he's in a good place. We had a nice week's training. We're managing him as well as we possibly can. So he's in a good place. Yeah, he's fit. Andros is still a few weeks away, and because it's been a difficult injury, I think we need to. I'll come back to you as such when it feels like he's really getting close, because I don't want to put pressure on him. But hopefully, a few weeks away.
No other fresh injury problems for you. What progress has been made in terms of bringing players in during this window? I mean, what can you tell us that will really, I suppose, ease the fans' frustrations at the minute that midway through January, nothing has really moved in the transfer window to kind of address the issues that you have within the squad?
Well, I don't want to say things to ease frustrations for the sake of it. Be words, of course we want the action of bringing people in as we see. It's January, clubs around us are doing it. Premier League is a constant moving forwards, every team. So we're obviously working towards that. And we need to do that because we need to help the squad. And as a coach, that's what I want, because I want to have more competition, particularly in attacking areas, which is the main part of our game when you look at this season, where we've been short, and that affects points and results and feeling. So we want to help to be competitive there, and of course we're working towards that, and we have to work within our parameters, and that's the word that's going on here. But I'm not going to say loose words until the fans see what we do, because I appreciate that they only want the best for the squad. They want to see players coming in. I get it.
As always, I've got to throw a name at you. Danjuma's the latest. Is there anything in that? What can you tell us?
No, I'll leave the names out of it.
What can you say, though, to the fans who will protest against the board tomorrow and the running of the football club? Because obviously it will impact, I would imagine, in some respects, on you and the players.
Well, I think as myself and the players, we have to be the first ones, me the first, that doesn't get distracted by anything, because this is a big game for us in terms of our league position, the points, what it would mean if we can win the game. So in terms of saying to the fans, they have absolute right to protest. That's of course a very real right. I believe they're coming early to welcome the players to the stadium. If they are, then that's great, because we saw what a great help that was. Will they back the players on the pitch if they see passion? Do they see Everton players that want to give everything for the shirt, which has happened a lot of times in my time at Goodison? In the last couple of games, no, but that's our responsibility as well. Will they be behind us if we do that? Yeah. So from my point of view and the players' point of view, our only thing now at the moment is to have personal responsibility. Me and my job, the players and their job, and we have to think about ourselves and performing and not. So that's my answer to it. And I think if the fans see that in the game, and they see that from Everton players and staff, then I think they'll react in a way positively, and then the rest is their right.
How does it feel within the club, though? Because the perception outside could be that it's in turmoil, it's in crisis.
Well, again, I have to be the first one that filters things out. I mean, my only focus can be to prepare the team for Southampton. What's the selection? What do the tactics look like? What does Southampton look like? It makes my week pretty busy, and I can't focus on anything like that. And I've been in this game for a long time as a player, and as a coach now in 3 big football clubs. So I understand certain things, and I don't have to sit there and talk about them and open up about everything, because my job is to be really consistent about the work I do and focus on the right things. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with it.
You've obviously had support from Farhad Moshiri this week as well. How do you feel about that? Are words enough, or do you need more?
No, I don't need more. I said last week that I didn't need reassurances, and when I said that, I meant public reassurances, because I think they can be taken either way, if there is one or if there isn't one. And as a football coach, I joined this club in a relegation battle. A lot of people stand at the start of the season that I might be a manager that leaves first, or favourite, or whatever these things. And I know, and it's not just me, by the way, in the Premier League, that we're always 1, 2, 3 games away from the pressure and these words. So I think if you were to try and hang on words of reassurance, I think it's the wrong way. All I need to do, and all that's expected of me, is to keep focusing on the work. And I understand our position, and I think I'm the first one. It's not the first time I'm saying this season. When we stayed up against Palace, it was an amazing night for Everton Football Club. But I went home and thought, well, this is a start. And the start was going to be tough, and it's going to be, okay, where do we build and keep building and keep building? And for us, that probably meant staying around where we are in the league. I think that's a reality. all I can focus on is working to make sure we get better every day, every week, if we can, and get enough results to move us upwards.
We've spoken about the signs we saw in the performance against United in the Cup as well. We're obviously facing a side that has got 2 Cup wins on the bounce and has knocked Manchester City out of a Cup quarter-final. I wonder then, in the context of the season, how much significance do you put on this one game in the context of the challenge to stay in the division?
Yeah, well, it's a big game because you're against a competitor. We saw their performance in the week. In fact, they were great. You have to beat Manchester City. So they've had 2 positive results. So we have to respect that and respect them as the team they are, with a manager that's come in with a lot of energy, who I know well, but I know how he is. So we have to respect that and go into the game with an understanding that it's an important one now. But there is a lot of games to come after this. But, it's in a way, I was pleased to see their performance on midweek, because we have to respect them, and if it makes us absolutely respect and everybody respect them and understand this is a really tough game. I understand what it is to play every 3 days. I did it most of my career. I've managed in the Champions League every 3 days. This sort of managing, the game before doesn't always reflect what comes in 3 days. All you can do is focus on yourself. We respect Southampton completely, but if we get our game right, then we can get the right result.
Just finally, obviously no Alex Iwobi, but in terms of the system that you want to play, you've got options, haven't you? So that's the important thing. You can either go with the same kind of formation, or you can switch things around, go to 3 centre halves again.
Sure, we'll see. Every game is different. We played 2 really good performances in Manchester the last week against City and United. Unlucky against United, I think. But this is a home game, a different opponent. We have to think about what our strengths are and how we can give them the most problems. So that's obviously my work to do and to select. Thank you.
Thanks, Vinny. We'll go to Stuart at Premier League Production.
Okay.
Obviously, Goodison can be very intimidating, as we saw at the back end of last season. Is that what you want tomorrow? Is that your message to the Everton fans?
Yeah, I would love it to be that, because we see that the effect it has on the club when it's all joined up, and our fans are so passionate. I've played against it. It's a really tough place to come, and we want to make it that. So again, yeah, of course, I never ask for anything. I'm trying not to ask for anything for the fans, because I think that's the wrong way to go about things. We have a job. We have to action for the fans to buy in, but we felt that they actually started it last year. They were turning up early, giving the players a feeling. Players were going on the pitch, playing with passion, getting some big results that kept us up. So of course, if we can have that, it'd be great.
Obviously, the importance of the game is pretty obvious to everybody, but I just wonder how you almost shield the players, if you like, from the outside noise that surrounds the club at the moment and this game.
Well, I don't know about that, because I think modern young men in our squad have their phones in their hand all the time. So I can't shield from certain things, and I have to try and be aware of as much as I can be in terms of my interactions with them. But I come back to the basics. As a Everton player, as a Premier League player, there's so much attention that brings responsibility. And so if there is noise, as an Everton player, you have to blank it out, train well, prepare well, do all the right things through the week, and perform on the game, perform on Saturday. So that's my message to the players, and that's what we get paid to do.
I think just 5 points separate 13th and bottom. Do you think not that you want to be in a relegation strap, but do you think it could be perhaps the tightest battle at the bottom of the table this season in the Premier League?
Well, at the moment it is, but who knows? There's a lot to go. People are changing their squads in January. Things will look different. Everybody's trying to get momentum of results. We haven't managed to get that at the minute for different reasons, which can change the picture very quickly. So I don't think it matters what I think it's going to be yet this year. It matters what we focus on ourselves and understand, maybe because it's close, that if we can string together results, good results, then the picture will change, feeling will change, confidence will change, the players will feel different. But at the minute, the players are working great. I think the 2 Manchester performances show a collective spirit, a collective idea, and they need to continue with that. That's always my message, but they need to continue with that, because the fight and the quality of the play, I liked a lot of things. We need to be more clinical at the top end of the pitch, for sure. And again, that comes down to what we're trying to do in January, a little bit for competition. But other than that, we need to just continue with the spirit that we saw in those 2 games. Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. We'll go to Alistair at the BBC.
Sorry, Alistair, I know this is your last ever, 21 years, coming to see us.
Yeah.
I just want to say congratulations and wish you the best going forward. I'll miss your line of questioning every week.
I've still got a few left.
God, I shouldn't have I think maybe I should have said that at the end or at the beginning.
Have I gone too early?
Have I gone too early? Well, let's see what he says now, because it'd be interesting.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks very much.
And now what?
So can you say if you're close to any signings at the minute?
I don't want to say we're obviously working on certain players, and we have to have players that we really want, and the ones, if that's not available, that we go for different options. And so it's not worth to say that we're close until it's done. Simple as that.
I just wondered, given Alex's injury as well, does that sort of change the parameters of what you're looking at in terms of strengthening midfield now?
Not so much in midfield, because Alex's is a short-term injury. So I think in midfield, Jimmy Garner's due back at the start of February, we hope, and I think Jimmy was really developing well into the team and then got this injury. So I think in midfield we're in a decent place. We'd always look if we can improve, but it's more in the attacking area, I think, where we, in terms of attackers, strikers, wingers, those things, for competition to help, and it needs to push the lads, and we know we need that. And obviously having had Dominic out for the major part of the season has made us feel that even more. Now we hope to keep Dominic fit and then obviously add around that.
Yeah. And there's a couple of reports, I think maybe around the last weekend, about Dele Alli and potentially Besiktas cancelling his contract or wanting to cancel his loan deal. Just wondered whether there had been any contact between you and the club, Besiktas, at all.
There hasn't between myself personally. My understanding is that Dele is there for the year, and that's how it will be.
Okay, fine. And just going back to what you said before, you're sort of reflecting on the Palace result last season, and you went away and said, you obviously a lot of work to do, but you said that meant probably staying where you are in the league. Why is that? Why did you feel, was it a lack of financial sort of support, or?
No, I don't mean to sound necessarily negative, but my job is to analyse everything, and I think, obviously once Richarlison moved, it's very hard to replace him as such. He's a very unique player. Brazil's number 9. And we also knew that we lost 4 or 5 players in midfield. I say lost, a couple moved on naturally. Delphi, Van der Beek went back. Dele obviously moved on, and some of them were my choice to think that we can improve the midfield. And also we had a problem defensively, and now we've brought players in, as we've seen, which have made us a stronger team defensively. And of course we want to help at the front of the pitch. So when you have all these things that you're thinking about, I think my point being, I don't want to get too far away from myself, because I know how competitive this league is. So whilst we have to work within our budget, I also then have to get to work myself and try and put out the best team, improve as much as we possibly can. But I think there's just a note and a moment of realism, and I don't think I'm saying that on my own. I think Evertonians sort of understand where we are, and last year we had to fight with everything to stay up, and it was a beautiful thing. But we want to get back to where we and every good story of a team that gets back to where they really want to be, we see them in the modern day in the Premier League, are all married up with coaching and work and recruitment and investment and all these things. So that takes time. That was my feeling. So I'm just being honest about it.
I just wondering, just about the game tomorrow. You say obviously players, you want to not let them get distracted by all the noise, but if things do, if you go behind, obviously there'll be probably chance about the borders there have been in recent games. How do you sort of protect them from that? Or have you spoken to players about how they can ignore that during the course of a match?
Yeah, I mean, we're guessing what the reaction will be, because when we speak about some games last year, we saw that the fans stuck with the team in difficult moments, and we got good results through it. So I don't want to second guess too much, but yeah, I think it's the players. I will speak with the players and make sure that things can happen in game. We can't control everything about the result. We can control our performance to try and give us the best chance. And if it means at times in a game you'll have to show character in your own way, that you're a football player for this club and you just have to absolutely focus, then they have to do that. That's clear. And sometimes that just comes with the territory of playing in a top football club.
And just last of all, obviously the owner has been speaking this week. He's done a statement. Have you actually spoken to him this week?
Yes.
Can I ask what that conversation?
No, those ones are always private, Alistair. I mean, I speak regularly with the board, because we all want improvement, and that's a fact, So when we speak regularly, it's with a view to getting improvement, and that's what we do. But they're not conversations for me to be public about.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks again. I've got something for you afterwards. If you hang around.
Thanks, Alistair. We'll go to
Slap, yeah.
James at Radio Merseyside, please.
Frank, just a couple of squad matters, please, if I may. Alex Iwobi, I know you were able to speculate as to the length of time he may be out after Manchester United. Has that become clearer through the week?
Yeah, it's a lesser injury than what we thought. So we'll see in the morning if he's ready to play tomorrow.
And Tom Cannon has gone to Preston on loan. What's the thinking behind that, and how far is he from making an impact here?
Well, that's part of his development. Tom's had a really good year. Managed to get some minutes in the first team, scoring a lot of goals. And we have to think of the pathway for Tom. And I think playing in a championship with a club like Preston is a really, really good loan for him. And obviously now we have Dominic, we have Neil, we have Ellis back within. So it's we have to make decisions for the good of the player as well. And they're our player. So I think it's a great loan for him.
And how heartening was it to see the reaction of the supporters towards you and the team after that game at Old Trafford when you went over there and applauded them?
Yeah, I certainly really appreciated it, and I think the players did and should, because I think the fans were outstanding all night, from the beginning to the end, and I think that shows the passion they had, but then what they did at the end shows the relation they have to the players when they see players giving everything and playing with character and confidence in a difficult stadium, a fantastic stadium. So I think that was really good. From the fans, and it's a sign for us all. Fans will always respect work ethic and fight and desire for the team, and understand that you go to a club at Manchester United, it's a game you can win or lose, but you better give everything for 95 minutes or whatever. And those basics, I tell the players all the time, because I think some players don't join the dots of every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, what it means on Saturday. Things you do on Monday relate to what happens on Saturday. And that's my job sometimes to tell a young player, say for instance that, because I was that young player and now I'm an older man and I understood what that meant for my game. So I try and get that to the players. And I think little things like getting an applause for a performance where we lost, but we showed a lot of good stuff and probably deserved more, I think, a draw possibly, then I think that shows them the way. And they have to continue that way. So we cannot make excuses about anything going on around at the minute in terms of noise. We're very privileged to work for this club. And if people want to call it a difficult moment, so be it. We actually just have to work in one direction to try and show people, yeah, you know what, we are a better team than maybe what people think we are. Or maybe I'm a better coach than what people want to think that you are. And if we do that, there's not much more you can do in this job, and those are the basics.
Thanks, James. We'll go to Carl Markham at the Press Association.
Hi, Frank. Just to go back to your comment about expecting to stay where you are this season from last season.
Yeah.
The old adage in football is if you stand still, you go backwards. So can you appreciate how that sort of comment might ring alarm bells with fans?
No, I don't think. I think if you're reading it and picking up on stay where we are, what I mean is that this league is really competitive, and the idea that we were in a relegation battle last year will suddenly turn into a charge to the Champions League. I mean, I've heard those quotes bandied about at many clubs, and until you do it and show it, it means nothing. So I don't want to sound. I'd rather take back those words if it felt like I went in with an air of negativity. I didn't. I'm a realist. And when you see what you're doing and feel what you're doing and you understand football and the competitors and understand what the league might look like, you understand it might be a fight. And of course I don't want to stay where we are. I want us to improve, but it might take time. That was my point.
So, just ask what would represent progress for you then, looking at the right direction?
Well, that's always a hard question, because we want to stay in this league, because that's something that we're proud of, that we've done for so many years. We want to move the style a little bit from where we were last year in a way and move forward, but the priority has to be results. So stay in the league as a minimum and try and improve on that. So that will be progress for me.
Thanks, Carl. Any further questions in the open section? Will?
Hi Frank, just wondering if there's been any interest in your own players, and would you be open to letting a couple depart maybe permanently to boost the coffers to bring players in?
Yeah, I think there's always some moving parts to that, whether there's interest or not, and whether you feel that it's better for us first and foremost if the player was to move on, and sometimes whether it's better for them. Ideally, if it's both, then they move on if there's interest. So at the moment, there isn't much happening on that front, but I think it's important that I always get asked about who you get in, what's recruitment, who you're going to bring in. Also, with the squad, sometimes it's really important that the players at the right time do move on. And that's kind of balancing the squad, and that's kind of part of the process as well that I talk about over a longer period of time to get you improvement. I think a lot of managers will say that if you ask them. It's as much about sometimes players that move on and then the ones you bring in and you want to move in a certain direction. But the answer is there's not much happening at the moment, but we're open to it in the right areas for sure.
There'll be some fans saying that you've had a long time to plan for this window, given the World Cup happens. It's 30th of January now and no signs have come in. Is it not as straightforward as that? I'm sure the due diligence is being done, but you're waiting for almost the dominoes to come into effect and it's over.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, the due diligence has been done from... It's our job to do it. It's not my job specifically. My first job is to coach the team, but also to talk about the players I want that will improve the team, the type of players. And then you have to look at the budgets, and then you have to look at the players that are available. The World Cup affected this window slightly, I think, but now you see things are starting to move. So there certainly hasn't been a loose eye, not on it. We know we want to help the team, but it's not as simple as that. And we have to find players that improve us. And I keep talking about attacking areas of the pitch. Probably the hardest place to recruit, because we know that players that really deliver at that end of the pitch cost a lot of money and maybe play elsewhere and are not going to leave there. So we have to work as hard as we can to try and bring players in that improve us, and it's important we do that. That is our job as well, in terms of our responsibility to try and move the club forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Will.